Christian Encarnacion-Strand and Jeimer Candelario both have something to prove in 2025. And if they do it, it's going to propel the Reds towards the postseason. We'll tell you why on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are back together for the first time in like a long time.
The band has gotten back together. I missed you, man.
Together finally. Missed you too, dude. And we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that have been doing this podcast now for a couple of years. We've been podcasting separately about the Reds for like 7 seasons, 14 seasons altogether. Math is hard. Lots of years, but we love talking about these Cincinnati Reds, and Locked On Reds is, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every single day, and on today's podcast, we're going to talk about George Foster here in a bit because we're 15 days away from opening day, and that means George Foster is the dude that we're going to be celebrating a little bit later on in today's show. Also want to talk about Jeimer Candelario. Is a bounce back on the menu? That's what's on tap for Candyman? That's going to be in a few minutes, but we're going to start first with the guy that I believe has one of the biggest chances to transform this Reds team to where they want to go, and that is Christian Encarnacion-Strand, because it is clear, Steve, he is healthy and he's hitting the ball real well in spring training.
He's hitting the ball. He's hitting the ball hard. Lots and lots of barrels with 100+ exit velocities out in Goodyear right now. And that's exactly what the Reds needed to see from CES, because much to our chagrin, much to our disappointment, they did not go get the big bopper that we were asking them to go get this last offseason. I think the Reds believe CES can be the big bopper. I think the Reds believe that if CES does what CES is supposed to do, he'll give you 35 home runs in the middle of this lineup. And right now he's hitting the ball like a guy that can do that, can give you those 35 home runs. He looks like he's, we always say this tongue-in-cheek laughing, best shape of their life, but he looked good right out of the gate. He came to camp ready to go. And I think we're seeing the dividends of that on the field with the way he has performed thus far. Now, I know it's spring training. Everybody cool your jets, right? But I'm not talking about how many home runs. I'm talking about the contact that he's making. I'm talking about the way he looks playing the game. I have not seen anything that looks like negative impacts as far as how he's playing defensively or flexing that wrist or looking like there's ill effect. So for me, I'm excited. I think CES is primed to break out.
It's clear they've built him back better, stronger, faster, even better with the bionic wrist that he now has, at least based on everything that David Bell told us about what was going to be needed to fix that wrist last season. But yes, I'm with you. Like, there's been no part of his game that I'm like, ooh, he's wincing a little bit, or he's a little bit lethargic with that swing or something like that, because that's going to be the thing, right? Like, we always talk about, I love to talk about baseball savant, and if a guy is playing really well or if he's playing really bad, let's look at his peripherals. Everything about last year stunk on ice for Christian Encarnacion-Strand, and I think it was because of that injury. And for me, at least, I'm willing to say this. I'm willing to go out there and say this. I was standing on a table before 2024 saying this dude could be the best hitter in the lineup. I don't know that I'm there right now because I think Elly Cruz is taking that step forward, but I think that he could be the most important hitter in this lineup because he could be that number 4 guy, the number 5 guy, the run producer in the middle of the order that the Reds desperately need, the power threat that other pitchers fear, because I think he's got 30 home run potential this year. In his future, in the near future, maybe even 40 home run potential. But I'm not going to say that for 2025. I think 2025 we see 30 homers for Christian Encarnacion-Strand.
So basically, you're looking for him to be this team's Tony Perez. You want him to be the clutch RBI, drive him in guy. And I think that he can be that guy. Listen, you look at that 2024, and it's very easy to do the whole, well, he was terrible. He stunk. Reminder, he had 116 at-bats in 2024 before they shut him down from the wrist that was broken pretty much the entire time that he was getting those 116 at-bats. That -1 in WAR, throw that out of here. He's not going to be a negative WAR player. 39 OPS plus, if he is healthy, there's no way he dips that low. So just by him being healthy, you're going to get 2 to 3 times the player that he was last year. I don't think I can overstate it. I truly believe he's going to be able to just feast based on what the guys that are hitting in front of him in this lineup are going to be able to do day in and day out for Terry Francona. You got to think, you want to know why Terry Francona came out of retirement? You just look at the first 5 guys he's going to get to write down every day this season, assuming health. What an exciting time to get to be a manager of that team. These guys are all just poised and primed to do a thing. And I'm ready. Was it opening day? Let's go.
15 days away. We're not that far off. And the reason that I think the success of CES will transform this team is, think about how bad the production was at first base last season. They had 7 different guys play first base. Mike Ford
is not walking through that door.
Edwin Rios, Dominic Smith.
Remember him.
CES played just 29 games. Jeimer Candelario, Ty France, and Spencer Steer all played more games at first base than did Christian Encarnacion-Strand. And look, while it seemed like Spencer Steer might be settling into the position a little bit, collectively this group put together an OPS plus that was 27% below league average. The first base position was the most detrimental spot in the lineup outside of designated hitter, which the Reds just use as a pseudo off day.
Do you want to know how bad play was at first base? Ty France came to town for like a week and hit 2 balls hard, and people were ready to give him a 4-year deal.
Excited.
People were losing their minds over Ty France.
There's still people that are mad that he's gone. There's still people that are mad
that he's gone. First base was for the Reds last year. Get out of here with
that. And we're talking about a dude in Ty France that had an on-base percentage in 45 games as a Red, had an on-base percentage of 281. Christian Encarnacion-Strand is going to be better.
All-star numbers.
Yeah, all-star numbers. OPS of 667 for Ty France. I want to put that to bed. I appreciate everybody's support of Ty France. The Reds aren't going to miss him. The Reds are going to do much better than him this season, and it's because I'm all in on CES. The scouting report on him was mammoth power, absolute ridiculous power. And I can still remember some of the highlights that we saw of him in Louisville hitting the ball over the batter's eye. Mm-hmm. He has mammoth power, decent contact to the plate as well, and solid fielding. I mean, I think we are seeing some of the plays. He's had a couple of nice ranging plays into foul territory, catching some pop-ups you're not thinking a first baseman's typically going to get to. Like, he is the guy. As much as this is a bit of a controversial thought because of how he didn't do last year, but he is the reason that the Reds felt it was time to move on from Joey Votto. And I think he's going to prove that to us this year. He's going to prove it to that.
And listen, I can sense a disturbance in the comment section already, Jeff, because we are the first people to talk about how spring doesn't matter, right? Where you and I are like from the mountaintops, the spring training stats don't matter. But I want people to look deeper. We're not looking at the numbers. We're not looking at the counting stats. We're looking at the barrels. We're looking, CES should be getting hits, but he's making perfect contact. He's hitting the ball 110 miles an hour off the bat. That's not meaningless spring training stats. That's dialed in. That's seeing the ball. That is going through your daily work and doing it perfectly to get the results that you should be getting. And, he's not getting dinks and dunks. He's not, taking some AA pitcher with off-field contact and getting a hit that way. He is driving the baseball. And that's what I'm excited about. It's not, oh, look, he had 3 hits today. Although I'm excited about that, that's not why I'm making these judgments about what I think we're going to see from him. It's the way he looks. It's the way he's playing. It's the level of comfort that we're seeing. Yeah, it's the eye test, right? And I know people like, the old school guys are going, yes, finally. It doesn't end in a plus. They're talking about the eye test. Yeah, he passes the eye test as well. And I'm excited because I really do think he has figured some things out in the offseason, and I'm ready to get him on the field, Jeff. I'm ready.
There's somebody that I don't know that he passes the eye test currently. He's had some nice moments in spring training, but the Reds do need to see Jeimer Candelario bounce back We're going to tell you about our faith in that coming up next.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, if you use the promo code SH5, you're going to get 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss a single episode of the great Reds coverage we've got coming your way this season. This channel is just going to keep getting bigger and better, and we want you here talking Reds baseball with us. So click that subscribe, click that notification bell, click that like button because we want to talk Reds with you. Jeff, you know, as much as I want to see CES play 162 games and hit 40 home runs and have 150 RBIs, it's probably not going to go down that way. There's going to have to be other guys playing first base. And if you look around the Reds roster right now, it looks like Jeimer Candelario is going to be the guy that bounces back and forth across the diamond. We'll see him at third, we'll see him at first, but he's going to be the primary guy that fills in when it's not CES. And that being said, we're going to see Jeimer in the lineup a lot, and I'm going to need more from him in 2025 than we got from him in 2024.
Yeah, and I know that the first counterpoint that everybody makes is, well, but guys, I mean, he slugged .429 and he hit 20 home runs. What more do you want from him? Well, I want him to have a better on-base percentage than .279 because his career on base is .318. I mean, that's almost 40 points higher if I do my math correct. So that's, in and of itself, is a big area of opportunity for him. But more than that, he was not a consistent guy in this lineup. The Reds signed him to be the consistent veteran presence. Was it to be the cleanup guy? No, but it was the kind of guy that you can count on. He's going to give you a good at bat every time out, and he didn't give that to the Reds last year. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit concerned about what he looks like in the field. He is a guy that, you know, Steve, I talked about third base with Noelvi Marte being demoted and what third base looks like. And I think Candelario might play a little bit out at third base, but I don't want to see that. And he's going to play a little bit first base, but I don't know how much I want to see that either. I think the biggest impact he can have is being a solid DH for this team. So it's going to come down to the bat. And the bat's got to be far more consistent than it was last year. I don't know. And look, we were very optimistic in segment 1 talking about CES. Mm-hmm. I don't know that Jeimer Candelario can ever live up to the free agent contract that the Reds gave him.
Nope, he can't do it. But I'll tell you what he can do. He can be better than a negative 0.7 as far as WAR goes. Yes. He can be better than a 90 as far as OPS plus goes. He can be a 110 OPS plus player. That's not too much to ask of him. And listen, as much as I would love for you to be right about him being the primary designated hitter on this team, it's not going to happen, Bucko. And I hate to tell you, but they're going to cycle Tyler Stevenson through there to keep his bat in the lineup much, much more. They're going to, use it to give Matt McClain a day out of the field and just keep his bat in the lineup. They're going to use that as a quasi rest day. That's what we're going to see from the designated hitter position. That means that Jeimer's going to have to field his position. He's going to have to field third base. He's going to have to field first base. Now, I will say, in a small sample size, he's looked pretty good out in Goodyear. I've seen him make some plays this year that I don't think he would have made last year. Defensively, whether that's because he's just feeling good, he's in better health, his feet aren't hurting, whatever it is right now, he looked to be playing a little bit sharper in the field than what we saw from him in 2024. He's going to have to be out there, Jeff. They're going to rotate guys through designated hitter position. Jeimer's going to have to play defense, and he's going to have to play it at least at a league replacement level. That's what I need from him. I don't need him to be an all-star. I mean, I'd love it if he was, but I don't need that from him. I need him to be able to give the other guys the opportunity to move around, to get into the DH, to get a day off, to be healthy, to drive this team all the way through October. And that's Jeimer's role. He just needs to be healthy and consistent. That's the key word. That's the one thing he's got to change. Because I'll tell you, you want to see some scary numbers, Jeffrey? You subtract Jeimer Candelario's stats, take out May and June, and look at what he did the rest of the time.
Yeah.
It's ugly. It is ugly. Remember, I was ready to run him out of town after the Texas series that I watched down there in Arlington, and then he got hot, and I had to like back off for a while. He was bad. He can't be that guy. The Reds need him to be a 110 OPS plus guy to allow Terry Francona the flexibility that he needs to keep this lineup humming all the way through a postseason run.
Yeah, if you take May and June out, you've got the March-April area where it was a $189 batting average with a 659 OPS. You've got July, which was a $181 batting average with 562 OPS. That was worse than the first month of the season. And then what he did in August before he went on the injured list for good, he hit 213 with a 643 OPS. So it was just a lot of bad. And that's something that I wonder about a little bit with him too. And again, we mentioned that spring training stats aren't that big of a thing. Like, we're excited about what we see from CES. We got to mention he's got 3 hits in 14 at bats, and that's not quite updated. I know that he had a home run against the Padres starter Michael King the other day, but we're not talking about him setting the world on fire here in spring training either. So that's going to be something that we need to see him do. He's going to have to start out hot, because especially with Spencer Steer, what I keep saying, and again, it's not been reported, but this is just me reading the tea leaves, I think he's going to start the season on the injured list. But when he comes back, the guy that deserves the lion's share of first base time, if it ain't going to be CES, should be Spencer Steer. So then Candelario is going to have to figure something else out.
Yeah, that's correct for a lot of reasons. You're talking about a player that will be coming back off a shoulder injury that they're not going to want to put in left field. So just by the nature of that. Look, here's the problem that Jeimer's had. Notorious slow starter. And he doesn't have that luxury. He doesn't have the luxury to be a slow starter. The Reds can't afford for him to be a slow starter. Now, I don't know what they're doing different out in Goodyear as far as the stuff that's going on behind the scenes and on the backfields. We don't see a lot of that. But I have got to think that Terry Francona, coming into this situation, recognizes the importance of Candelario and has changed up his routine. Something has to be done differently, because whatever Jeimer's been doing in years past doesn't work to get him ready. It takes him till May. It takes him till mid-May. And then he catches lightning in a bottle and figures it out. We saw that from Joey Votto at times, right? He started off slow, he tweaked and tinkered, and then, all of a sudden it's opening day and he got serious, right? And it was time to go. I'm hoping that Terry has pulled him aside and they've worked on changing the way he gets ready so that when opening day gets here, he's ready to hit the ground running, because the Reds need that. They just don't have the luxury, especially, as you say, with Spencer Steer out of the lineup. They just can't afford for him to have a slow start.
And to your point, I mean, in Jeimer's career, over 570 at bats in the month of April, 230 batting average, 675 OPS. And then you go to the month of May, over 520 at bats in the month of May. He has a 243 batting average, so 13-point jump, and a 761 OPS, almost a 100-point jump in OPS. So he really turns it on. But you're right, it cannot be that way here in April. Like, if we see another $180 month with an OPS around 600, like, I don't know what the backup option is without Spencer Steer healthy. But I know that the Reds are not going to be turning to him as much as you would think they would turn to for a guy that's making $16 million a year.
Well, and you look at what they would have to do. Let's say Jeimer can't get it done. Are you calling up Noelvi? You're not. You did a good job breaking down
not
Noelvi
that fast, no.
yesterday. You're not bringing him up that fast. Are you moving CES to third base and then trying to shoehorn somebody else in at first base? Maybe Gavin Lux, who has not played there at all.
Or Gavin Lux at third, or
Gavin Lux at third. Like, there's other things you have to do that aren't necessarily as good a fit. The best fit is for Jeimer to have it figured out. And this is the biggest, we talked all offseason, Jeff, of how sick and tired I was and how sick and tired you were of we hope, the word hope. We hope. If looking around this roster right now, I think Jeimer is the biggest one you're looking at and going, man, I hope that he gets off to a hot start. I hope that he can play better than he did last year.
Because there's nothing pointing to it.
That's it. Yeah.
There's nothing pointing to it. That's the thing. It's going to come out of nowhere. It's going to come out of left field. If Jeimer Candelario goes crazy and hits really well in the first month of the season, it's going to be a surprise if that happens.
No, and this is where I come back to Terry Francona and this coaching staff. I think Terry's done a good job of keeping guys and bringing guys and maybe changing the whole vibe a little bit around what's being done in spring training and setting expectations both on the pitching and the hitting side of things for things to be different and basically saying guys need to be ready to go. I have to believe, and we'll never know. Like Terry's not going to come out to a microphone and be like, I pulled Candelario aside and told him he better get his crap together. Like Terry's not going to do that, but I hope that that's what Terry did, if that makes any sense.
No, and that's got to be the way that it looks for a couple of different guys. But I think that will definitely help the Reds' playoff chances if we do see that bounce back from Jeimer Candelario.
Well, but listen to this, Jeff. Yeah. The year was 1977. Not only did a guy named George Foster win the MVP playing for your Cincinnati Reds, but that's the year that I graced the world with my presence. What a great year. We're talking George Foster coming up next.
It's March Madness time, which means it's also MLB Futures time over on FanDuel. Head on over to FanDuel.com right now. Plus, if you put your first $5 wager in and you win it, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So all the conference tournament action, NBA action, all that great stuff with the basketball, you can get yourself $200 in bonus bets to start throwing on some MLB Futures like the Reds to make the playoffs. Currently, the odds that FanDuel has on the yes, so the Reds to make the playoffs, is plus 260. Are you kidding me? That feels like a layup. There's so many layups right now over on FanDuel when it comes to the Reds and their futures, and you should go check them out, just like this yes bet for the Reds to make the playoffs at plus 260. I'm putting a couple of bones on that. You should too. Like I said, go to FanDuel.com. Your first $5 winning wager as a new user, get you $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're seriously on all of them out there. And hey, we got 15 days until opening day. Can't wait. Got my tickets down there, section 131. And with 15, that means it's George Foster time. Because quite frankly, the list of players, which we'll go through here in just a few moments, outside of George Foster isn't really all that impressive. George Foster owns this group. He was one of the best players that you could look back on in Reds history, especially, you're talking about a peak of a guy that you could argue is a peak that you would see from a Hall of Fame player. It's just outside of that peak, he did not have the Hall of Fame career, and that's why he's not in Cooperstown right now. But George Foster, man, absolute best number 15, and to address what you mentioned about 77 and you gracing your presence, look, that wasn't you. You didn't do that. I just wanted to let you know that. Like, you didn't have a hand. You didn't have a hand.
That's what matters. I showed up. Listen to this, Jeff. From 1976 to 1979, George Foster was an all-star. In 76, he finished second in MVP voting. Do you know who he finished second to in 1976? Joe Morgan. So the Reds had the top two vote getters in 1976. In 1977, George Foster hits 52 home runs, 149 RBIs with a WAR of 8.4 to be the MVP. Follows that up with another all-star season in 1978 where he was sixth in MVP voting and hit 40 home runs. And then we saw it begin him to fall off a little bit. But then his final year in Cincinnati, 1981, he was again an all-star. He finished third in MVP voting that year with another great season before he got out of town. During his time in Cincinnati, Jeff, 39.5 WAR. These are just his Cincinnati years. I takes out everything else. 39.5 in WAR, 244 home runs, 861 RBIs during his 1,253 games. This guy was an absolute beast. He was the power masher for the Big Red Machine. He was the guy to be feared amongst all the guys to be feared. the discussion of number 15, it starts and ends with George Foster. I've had the good fortune of talking with him several times. He's at everything. If you go to anything in Cincinnati that's Reds related, George Foster was there, signing autographs, whether it was Reds Fest or during the All-Star game in 2015. Got to talk to him a bunch of times. What a cool dude. Just a cool dude to sit and talk a little baseball with. Had a really wild encounter with him and Raleigh Fingers in 2015 at the convention center during the All-Star weekend. They were sitting next to each other, giving each other crap, letting everybody that was hanging around join in the talk. So much fun. Love that dude, Jeff.
How crazy is it that the person of all the different power hitters and great hitters that we've seen over the last, 30 something years, at least in my life, when it comes to watching Reds baseball, of all the guys to get the closest to his single season Reds record of 52 home runs, it was Eugenio Suarez. Like that still blows my mind that, and he should have had 50. He was robbed of one. It was a great play, obviously, but he was literally robbed of a home run. But still, to get to 52 and to hit 53 home runs, like I want to say that I believe either Elly or CES could do that, but man, that seems so difficult, even in a park that promotes the homers like Great American.
It's a big number nowadays. Pitching is different. It's a lot more specialized with a lot more nasty breaking stuff. But I don't want to take away from what these guys did in the past. 52 in any era is a big number. It's why you don't see it very often.
Yeah, he hit 40 and 78. 92 home runs in two seasons.
Yeah, and you look over the course, and then his RBI totals as well, Jeff. 121, 149, 120, 3 consecutive years. It was just so much fun. How about that slugging percentage in 1977, Jeff? 631 with an ops of 1.013. Man.
When we just say Jeimer Candelario's OPS wasn't in there.
It wasn't that.
George Foster slugging in 1977.
It was not that, Jeff. But listen, there are some other dudes that wore number 15. I wonder, I don't know why this number is not retired. I have questions. I have questions about why this number is still available. I think maybe some people with the team, if you're listening, this is something that you should rectify pretty quick. 15 should be retired. But Glenn Braggs, he's my other guy that I remember for number 15. And I know you're going to talk about your boy, Nick Senzel, and I get it. But I want to talk about Glenn Braggs because he was the cool power dude that the Reds brought in for the 90 wire-to-wire team. And you had him in the outfield. And you got Billy Hatcher out there. And you got Eric Davis. And that was such a fun outfield. And I just remember Glenn Braggs was so just jacked, so ripped that he would swing and miss. And he would swing and miss so hard that the bat would break over his shoulder on the backswing. That's how strong Glenn Braggs was.
I know that, he is a dude that is always kind of, friend of the podcast, Lance McAllister. He's one of those guys that thinks that Glenn Braggs should have been a lot better than he was. He never quite reached his potential. Like you could see it in some of the things that he did. Like he should have been a lot better, but yeah, I definitely think that it's hard to argue that he's number 2 on this list. Cause when you're going up against, like you mentioned, Nick Senzel, or say we got Dilson Herrera, you got Roger Bernardina.
Well, just give it to the guys that won rings in this jersey, right? So George Foster won rings in this jersey, and Glenn Braggs won a ring in this jersey. So there you go. There's number 1 and number 2.
Well, then we could go back if we want to do the rings argument. Lou Riggs. Lou Riggs was on the 1940 World Series team. So that's
we're stretching. We're stretching, man.
Lou Riggs. Lou L-E-W Riggs. How about Jim Edmonds? We want to remember Jim Edmonds wearing this number here?
No, we don't.
See, that's a reason. Look, I think here's the funny part. Like, I'm with you. I think this number should be retired. But let's look at some of the guys that have worn this number because it wasn't retired. We would have saved ourselves a little bit of hurt looking back at this number. We got Jim Edmonds. We got Derek Robinson. We got Tony Womack, Jorge Cantu. You got Jerry Hairston. You also have the wonderful in the 80s, the Nick Kasaskis and the Wayne Krenchickis. Yes, I know a friend of the podcast, Chad Dotson, will love that.
Barry Larkin wore this number for a hot second too.
Right before he switched to 11. Yep. It's just, this is one of those numbers that our friend Ken would just absolutely go crazy on with all these guys. I mean,
He probably has half of them too.
He probably does, because the decade of like 2000 to 2010, so many different. I mean, let's see. So the year 2000, Denny Nagel. 2001, Donnie Sadler. 2002 and 2003, Ruben Mateo. He got 2 years.
Ooh.
Then Darren Bragg in 2004, Corey Lytle in 2004, 2 guys in 1 year. Luis Lopez in 2005, Tony Womack 06, Dwayne Wise, he got 2 years, 06 and 07. Jorge Cantu in 07 as well, Jerry Hairston 2008, 2009, and then Drew Sutton. Yeah, the Drew that we all remember, 2009 to 2010.
Well, makes it easy for us. George Foster, that's his number. It should be retired. I don't know why it's not. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to get Cam on the phone.
Stop the hurt. Stop the hurt.
Get Cam on the phone right now. We need to find out why this number is not retired. I have questions. And that is probably where we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for it today, Jeff. Jeff, great to be back together again.
Yes.
You know, vacations hit wonky this time, but we took care of it. We're back together. Season's about to start. I am ready. And you need to make sure, if you're listening to us, you have clicked those subscribe buttons, because we have so much Reds content coming for you as this season gets underway. We want to talk Reds baseball with you. We want to talk Reds baseball with everybody. Help spread the word. Click the like button. Share the show with your friends. We want to talk Reds baseball all the time. We're going to keep gathering up all the news, the information, the rumors, the reports out of Goodyear. We're going to keep pulling them right back here to get you set for opening day and keep you locked on Reds every single day. Reunited.
Gonna get a Nick Senzel jersey when he starts playing with his new team.
Viva. What team was it? I can't say it. You know I'm bad with these.